Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. Today, I'm going to be discussing a Navy Federal Credit Union hack that actually works. And hack is more of a buzzword. I really just use practical information that I've gathered with facts, and I come up with unique strategies that are kind of unorthodox, but some people may have overlooked. And with this strategy, you'll be able to get a $15,000 line of credit with Navy Federal without the need for a credit check. So I'm going to break down exactly how you can accomplish this step by step and how this makes sense and how to implement it properly. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So what we're doing is turning your credit card into a line of credit that we can draw on for a very low APR. And I'm going to explain how this works. Now, if you go into the Navy Federal app or the website, whichever you prefer, you can click on your credit card and you'll see your credit limit. Now, when you look at your credit limit, you'll see your cash advance limit. In the screenshot that I took here, if you were to see that as an example, a $10,500 credit card will be able to access $3,150 for instant use. That is 30% of your total credit limit. With Navy Federal, there are no cash advance fees. The APR that you'll pay for cash advances is just 2% above your variable APR. And again, I'll explain in more detail. Now, there's a link in the description that will take you right to Navy Federal's website that will show you their credit card terms and conditions, and you can verify this information for yourself. It's updated as of 2025, and it's accurate at the time of recording this video. So make sure that you check that out. So the time you're watching this is still relevant information. I've also taken a screenshot and put it here so you can actually see it. Now, right here at the bottom, it says cash advance APR, 2% above your variable APR, and this APR will vary with the market based on the US prime rate. With a traditional credit card, normally you have a cash advance fee, which is typically 3 to 5% of the amount that you withdraw, or sometimes it's a flat fee of $5 to $10, whichever is greater. And you'll then have a higher interest rate than you normally would with your credit card purchases, and potentially ATM fees if you withdraw cash from an ATM. With Navy Federal, you avoid all of that. So if your APR is, let's say, 10.99%, your cash advance APR would then be 12.99%, 2% above your variable APR rate, which is actually not bad if you compare this to like a current personal loan. In fact, it's damn near competitive if you take a look at it, which now brings me to my next example. Now, hopefully this is where a lot of this will start to make sense. Let's say you have a $50,000 credit line with Navy Federal. 30% of $50,000 would be $15,000 by simply transferring that amount in the Navy Federal app from your credit card to your checking account, and you'll have that instantly. You don't need to pay cash advance fees. We understand the variable APR is just 2% above our current card APR. You don't need to get a hard inquiry. You don't need to apply. This all happens instantly. The Navy Federal Platinum card has the lowest APR that you can possibly get on any other Navy Federal card at the time of recording this video. It is 10.99%. All right. For the lowest rate, you can also call Navy Federal and ask them to lower your APR if you were unaware. Every single credit card has a different minimum APR. And again, at the time of recording this video, you can check the link in the description, click on that, it might change. Now, looking at my other example, let's compare this to the Navy Federal Personal Expense Loan. So right now, at the time of recording this video, if you were to get a Navy Federal personal loan at the lowest rate, if you had great credit, excellent relationship, and they gave you the lowest possible rate, you would get 8.99%, but you would have to pay this loan off within 3 years or less. Most people like to stretch it out for a lot longer. Now, if you were to actually have this loan for 37 months or longer, the lowest possible rate that you could get is 14.29%. It's actually cheaper with a cash advance fee, doing it the way that I just explained, than it would be to actually have a personal loan with Navy Federal. And let's say that you wanted more than $15,000, which is still very possible. If you were to open 2 platinum cards with the maximum Navy Federal exposure of $80,000, let's say $30K on one card and $50K on another card, you can take up to $24,000 in a credit card cash advance, or looking at it like a line of credit. Your APR would still be lower than a personal expense loan of $24,000 for 37 months or longer at the time of recording this video. And then since I already had this pulled up, I just wanted to kind of show you guys exactly, once again, why we're going with the platinum. This is the Navy Federal Credit Union credit card pricing terms. Again, link is in description. Now the platinum card, 10.99% to as high as 18%. All of Navy Federal's highest cards are 18%. If you're watching this video right now and you have an 18% APR with Navy Federal, I highly recommend you calling them and asking them to lower that. You should definitely have a lower APR, especially if you have a relationship with them. Now notice, Go Rewards, Cash Rewards, any other card that you're looking at, the flagship has the highest minimum when you take a look at it, as opposed to the secured card. The secured card does have the highest, but I'm talking about unsecured. The flagship is the highest. The other ones pretty much have the same exact range, except for the Go Reward slightly lower. But the platinum card, 10.99%, that will give you exactly what you're looking for. All right. And that's why we're looking at this particular card. This also confirms the cash advance APR. It is 2% above your variable APR. That way, you know, whatever you're paying for a cash advance fee is only 2% above whatever you're looking at right here. They also let you know about paying interest. Your due date is at least 25 days after the closing date of each billing cycle, and we will not charge you interest on purchases if you pay your entire balance by the due date each month. We will begin charging interest on cash advances, balance transfers, and convenience checks on the transaction date, which is the exact same way that Navy Federal personal loans actually work. Also, if you go to transaction fees, it lets you know if you performed a cash advance at a Navy Federal branch or ATM, then there would be no fee to withdraw the cash. Now, if you didn't perform this at one of the branches or one of their ATMs, then it would be 50 cents per domestic transaction or $1 per foreign transaction. That's just a side note, because again, if you did this, you would be just doing a transfer in the app. But if you were to draw on this as cash, that's just letting you know what the fees are for ATMs outside of Navy Federal's network. And also, we're going to get into this next. This lets you know how to calculate your daily periodic rate information. Your account is charged interest using a daily periodic rate, all right? A DPR. And they're going to kind of break that down, how this works here, but I'm going to break it down for you so we understand what the cost of this is. But let's go over to the personal loans for 1 second, just to confirm how it accrues interest as well. All right, so we are now looking at the personal loan options for Navy Federal. Again, we're looking at the personal expense loan. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's an FAQ section that will let us know exactly how the interest is accrued. So right here, it shows how is interest calculated on personal loans. We calculate interest daily using the simple interest method. That means we calculate interest on the unpaid principal balance from the date of receipt of the last payment until the date of receipt of the current payment. So that lets you know that the cash advance fee and the personal loan has the exact same calculation when it comes to interest. So with that being said, let's look at the cost between these two options. Here is the cost breakdown. If you were looking at the Navy Federal Credit Union Platinum Card, you would have an APR of 12.99% for your cash advance. Your average daily balance would be $15,000 to begin for a 30-day billing cycle period. I'm just using that in the example. Now, this is how you would calculate your daily periodic rate. You would take 0.1299. You would divide that by 365. That would give you 0.00035. Now, to calculate your interest charge, you would then take 15,000 times 0.00035, and then you would multiply that times 30. Now, this could be 30, this could be 31, it could be 28. It depends on the days that it's actually charging. So I'm just using 30 as an example. You would be charged $157.50 in interest for that first month. Remember, every time the principal balance goes down, this interest charge would then get lower. So we'd have to calculate it like for the next 37 months for me to keep showing you how much it would be. But you can also just pull up a calculator online. It'll tell you how much the total interest would be for these particular inputs. Now, if we're looking at the personal expense loan as an example, and you were to have this for, again, longer than 37 months, your APR is 14.29%. $15,000 would be the starting balance for a 30-day billing cycle. Your daily periodic rate would be 0.14299. Divide that by 365 and you get 0.00039. Interest charges would be 15,000 times 0.00039 times 30. You would be paying $175.50. So in this situation, you would be saving more money overall. You would not have to worry about a hard inquiry. You wouldn't be subjected to origination fees. You wouldn't have to, go through the entire process of even applying for a loan whatsoever. And if you already had a personal expense loan out, because with Navy Federal, you can only have one at a time, this would be another way for you to, let's say, take out a $50,000 personal expense loan and then also add an additional $24,000 to that maximum, where you can have $74,000 for a low rate if you have the maximum amount of exposure when it comes to the Navy Federal credit line. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this and you like content like this, where, I take things, I break it down, try to show you like different strategies to, actually use capital, credit, anything like that, please let me know in the comments below. I'm sure it'll be somebody in the comments that will have a different opinion or something of that nature. But hey, that's why we do this, to have good conversations. I mean, I'm not saying anyone should particularly, do or don't do this. I'm just giving you an example of something that you can look at as potentially an advantage that you can take. Whether or not you take it is totally up to you, and whether or not you decide to, actually do any of this information that I provide on this channel, again, it's completely up to you. This for me is all entertainment. If I was in a situation where I wanted to do this and I have access to this credit line, I know that I can. I'm not saying this should be your very first go-to, but if you were trying to raise capital for any reason, because I wouldn't recommend personal credit cards, I would look at business credit cards if, I had to make a choice. This same strategy can work with really any credit card as long as the APR makes sense. It's just not too many cards that have this great APR that lets you do this, especially on the business side. There are 0% APR cards, of course, but those do expire. Again, this is just another strategy, another idea, something that you could think about. And again, let me know if you enjoyed it or if you have any more tips that you want to give me. Thank you so much for watching this video, and you guys have a wonderful day.